Howdy, y'all. I was gonna wait till I got some Wi-Fi's, but I'd rather just upload it, see how the Wi-Fi fares and the upload time rate or whatever. So here we have today is in between, particularly the notion of free will and no free will, no choice, and you having some type of nudge decision. Because there is a dynamic aspect of no choice, no free will. There's a big energy field where we don't have free will.
But the funny thing was like, okay, so
But we could nudge to decide everything that is the universe collective or whatever. We have micro free decision based respectively. But that's not the point here, because I've kind of explained that over like the course of the years, whether it was online or not. And I might do some freestyle Tai Chi. I don't know. I'm like, you could get a natural high from oxygen and just doing your unique exercises, right? So people think, oh, this guy's gacked, this guy's lit, this guy's on something. It's called oxygen. It's called cleaning the human being. It's called cleaning the psychology. It's called cleaning the relationships. It's called cleaning just the mind. Cleaning the mind. The mind being something of a lubricant. Between the physical and whatever you really are as on a soulful level. So in between free will and no free will is, what are you doing out of love for yourself? What are you doing out of self-love? What did you choose to do out of self-love? Because I understand you could have a grudge for me, right? You could have, but there's hints and ingredients within that, how your casual patterns that you came with when you were born, you came with certain patterns that passed over from different energies of what you were from a different life. You don't have to call it incarnation or reincarnation. You might have a grudge for me. And look at the beautiful people. 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 So anyways, you might have a grudge for me, right? But what you fail to realize is the things that you're subscribing to within your relationships and your belief systems, the beings that embody the confusion aspect, they could amplify your perception of falseness. Because you're subscribing to certain belief systems before you cast the projection of the grudge itself. Before you're casting the projection of the grudge, toxic psychology could amplify how you're even subscribing to you even having a grudge for me to begin with. So it was slightly subtly before the grudge. You might have a grudge for me. But there's false influences that are giving you false, to some portion percentage, they're giving you false information and energy to amplify your perception itself. So maybe even if I did wrong you, we have to take responsibility for our own level of clarity and our own habits. And the thing with you have to understand with me is, without just saying balance, 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 I don't sugarcoat shit. All of this quote unquote vulgarity shit, end quote, that's for you to transform. That's for you to see the secret balance within that. Because the whole Vedanta shit is to transcend that shit. So it's like the vulgarity doesn't necessarily even exist. That's your human duality. That's your human intelligence looking at it as a fragment or a portion. It's not even necessarily just that. It's just to see what the individual will make of it. Anything that I've ever posted vulgar, you missed the point. Because what's underlying is how we're all uniquely using Vedanta, respectively, just you and God being the universe, and how we're all using Vedanta, and we're all rediscovering it or forgetting it at our own leisure. And we're subscribing to clarity or not. So even if you have a grudge towards me, you have to recognize your psychological habits, your intellectual habits, your associations. And within that, what are all those things? How are they giving you a particular type of clarity and productive information, or a particular type of confusion and non-productive information? So the grudges that you have for me to some mathematical portion are false. You might have a grudge towards me, but on a mathematical portion level, it's false. So in between, oh, what's up, guys? Yeah, I kind of like when I'm looking at the, like when I'm on the camera, like people don't know what I'm looking at. So people can misinterpret even the facial expressions, though, you know, because they don't see what I'm looking at. But anyways, in between free will and non-free will is what are you doing out of self-love? What did you sign up for? And ironically, you're kind of balancing a paradox. When you're doing it out of self-love, you're getting kind of closer like to God, right? Because God is doing all of this for self-love. He's not like, the universe is not necessarily like, it's not necessarily looking at Earth's duality as Earth's duality. Earth's duality is a byproduct of how the universe is like, is already creating everything out of some type of self-love. So when you're doing it out of self-love, you could reduce the disappointments, and you could recognize your subtle codependencies, no judgment. We come into this life with certain psychological habits, and within those psychological habits, there's a casual catalog and range of codependencies, more or less. And within those codependencies trick us because we're depending on something that we necessarily don't have to. That's the real spiritual path. It's being dependent on yourself. Like you're expecting something from something else. So there's a tricky path of like having real individuation and actually really serving a community. You have to balance that. So it's like the universe, not necessarily quote unquote God, end quote. The universe, the divine mother and father in their crazy fucking communion, they're fucking, they're isolating you so you could be less dependent, like spiritually and psychologically, etc., etc. So you could recognize your codependencies, because if you have codependencies, then you're going to expect something for someone else. And as you're expecting someone else to do something which is unwarranted on a professional level, is there communication? Is there a fair mutual trade, etc.? If you're expecting something on someone else unwarranted, now you have an ignorant grudge. So if you could read between the lines, that's what that is. So it's not necessary to have unwarranted expectations of someone else if there's not mutual reciprocation and mutual respect and mutual communication. Point blank, exclamation mark. And periods, and and maybe some people got question marks. Fine. But in between no free will and free will is, what are you doing out of self-love? You know, what did we sign up for on a balanced, neutral love level? And from that balanced, neutral love level, that is the neutral momentum essence momentum of our lives, of how we forgot we signed up for this. We chose to chase a desire, whether with some fraction of confusion and ignorance, end quote, and now we're living our own end result, energetic, spiritual, instantaneous karma under all the different karmas. So in between free will and no free will is you're doing it out of self-love. So, but after the self-love, there's a duality of free will and no free will. The free will and no free will is after the self-love. We forgot that we were doing it for self-love, because you have love for yourself. You have love for your family. The shit that you're doing, you probably have self-love because you feel good to serve your family. If there's like mutual respect and reciprocation and balance and communication and yada, yada, yada there. So in between free will and no free will, you're doing it out of self-love. And I don't mean to repeat myself too many times. And the self-love can express itself in like different formats, obviously. The self-love is like you're following up. It feels, you could find it in yourself where it feels good for you to serve your family. It's not necessarily free will or no free will. It's a natural free will that's in between free will and no free will. And as you develop that self-love for yourself and how your self-love that you give to others serves you, then there's no more expectations after that. And then free will, no free will, they don't have to be like things, you know, but they still are, because it's a after duality effect. So if we practice that we're doing everything that we're doing is out of self-love, and if we have hate or grudge, it's because we forgot the self-love of ourselves, and somehow we have just been codependent on shit. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad or good. I'm not trying to sugarcoat shit. This is just the raw balance of like, you know, real spiritual information. Spiritual meaning just like the individual energies or the energy individuation of the original gods, respectively, without the human interpretation of it. So I think this is a quality message, you know. I work with what I got. I hope you can too. And I respect everybody on their path, you know, because we're all alike, you know. We're all going through this 3D game, and obviously the 4D, which is you and your dreams, that has a different timeline, and that could be backwards, because the 3D is the byproduct simulation of something that could be going on in the 4D. And the 4D, we forget what happens in the 4D, because the 3D, it's creating a unique level of refinement. So because the balanced purpose of 3D is to see what's refined and what we could bring back up to the 4, to whatever dimension you want to go to, 145th dimension, whatever, however you want to look at it. You know, you could say there's 145 dimensions. The 5 just being the star, the 4 just being the earth, and the 1 being the wholeness of it all. And then 3 digits right there, you know, just the standard 3. So so the extreme accountability, we aren't necessarily, in a non-biased, non-condemning way, in a non-human way, in like something of a neutral way, we're not exempt from being on the path to more or less realize extreme accountability. And I'm like, we're in it, you know, we're in it right now. But like, there could be grace within the extreme accountability. Let's see what we got. So obviously it's going to get uploaded, because obviously people will be looking at me like, what is he saying? You know, well, wait, wait and see, right? So, but like on a neutral level, we could have grace with gradually realizing that we're not exempt from the arduous, hard path of extreme accountability, and that goes for me too. So, what is between free will and no free will? Remembering why you traveled this far to be you. Thank you very much.